Welcome to Fights, the ultimate home of UFC breaking news, shocking updates, and every story that sets the MMA universe on fire. Stay tuned because here, the real action begins. Canelo versus Crawford. Is it time for Canelo to pass the torch? Boxing finds itself at a fascinating crossroads this weekend as two of the sport's greatest champions collide in a matchup few thought possible. Canelo Alvarez, the Mexican icon who has carried the torch of boxing superstardom for more than a decade, meets Terence Crawford, the undefeated maestro, widely considered the best pound-for-pound fighter alive. With UFC CEO Dana White lending his promotional power to the event alongside Saudi backers and Netflix broadcasting the spectacle to a global audience, the stage is set for a fight that could redefine the future of boxing. Alvarez has been the face of boxing since the twilight years of Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, and Miguel Cotto. With his red hair, granite chin, and relentless bodywork, Canelo rose from Guadalajara into a global brand, fighting across weight classes and cementing himself as a generational figure. He has fought everyone from Mayweather to Gennady Golovkin, from Sergey Kovalev to Dmitry Bivol, amassing belts and commanding some of the biggest paydays in combat sports history. For years, he has represented stability and star power in a sport often plagued by inconsistency. Crawford, on the other hand, has carved a different path. Where Canelo embraced the limelight, Crawford let his fists do the talking. Quiet, cerebral, and supremely skilled, the Nebraskan native has built an immaculate record of 42-0. He has conquered multiple divisions, switching seamlessly between orthodox and southpaw stances, and breaking down opponents with a surgeon's precision. His dominance over Errol Spence Jr. in their long-awaited showdown cemented him as arguably the finest technician of his era. Yet despite all this, Crawford has never quite broken into mainstream superstardom at the level of his Mexican rival. That could all change with one night. The torch question. Can Crawford become boxing's biggest star? The central storyline hovering over this fight is not just who wins, but what victory means. If Crawford defeats Alvarez, particularly in decisive fashion, it could signal a dramatic changing of the guard. He would not only remain undefeated, but also dethrone the man long viewed as boxing's face. Such a triumph could finally push him into the public consciousness as the sport's unquestioned #1 figure. Still, there are obstacles to that narrative. Crawford is already 37, turning 38 before the year ends. Even if he emerges victorious, the window for him to enjoy his reign at the top is narrow. Unlike a 25-year-old phenom ready to take over a decade-long mantle, Crawford would be seizing it at the twilight of his career. For fans and pundits, that raises the question, would he keep fighting to defend that position, or would he walk away, undefeated and immortalized, at the peak of the sport? Some believe the latter is likely. Crawford has nothing left to prove, and the financial windfall of this fight may allow him to exit boxing with his legacy untarnished. Retiring at 42-0, with championships across divisions and a win over Canelo, would make him one of the greatest fighters in history. He could then pursue lucrative exhibition bouts against names like Floyd Mayweather or even crossover spectacles without risking his spotless record. But boxing history is also about moments, and Crawford's potential to claim the spotlight, even briefly, cannot be dismissed. For a sport constantly in search of stars who resonate beyond its core fan base, this fight could be the catalyst that finally propels him into that rarefied air. Canelo's side. Legacy management and risk control. For Canelo, this fight represents something different. He has already proven himself across weight classes, from junior middleweight to light heavyweight. His record speaks of bravery, taking on a who's who of challengers, and establishing himself as one of the most bankable attractions in combat sports. But at this stage, every fight is carefully chosen. Canelo has been criticized for cherry-picking fights that minimize risk while maximizing reward. His reluctance to face David Benavidez has been the loudest critique, with fans accusing him of sidestepping a dangerous opponent in favor of safer, albeit still marketable, challenges. In Crawford, however, he sees the perfect balance. A smaller man moving up in weight, a pound-for-pound star whose presence enhances Canelo's own legacy, and an event that will generate massive attention. For Canelo, it's the biggest payday available with arguably less risk than facing younger, naturally larger contenders. This calculation forms part of his brilliance as a businessman within boxing. He has mastered the art of legacy management, ensuring that each fight adds to his stature while keeping the odds in his favor. Still, should he falter against Crawford, the narrative around him could shift from that of an untouchable king to a fading monarch who overstayed his time. The viewership factor. How big is this really? One of the most intriguing elements of this fight lies not in the ring, but in the audience it attracts. Unlike traditional pay-per-view models, this bout will air on Netflix, a streaming giant with unmatched reach. UFC CEO Dana White's involvement signals an intent to merge combat sports audiences and break new ground in global fight promotion. Yet the buzz has been surprisingly muted. The undercard lacks star power, the promotional rollout has felt rushed, and casual fans outside of hardcore boxing circles seem less aware than expected. In an era where spectacle often trumps sport, this fight hasn't quite captured the cultural conversation the way Tyson Fury, Jake Paul, or even Floyd Mayweather once did. Still, the potential is enormous. With Netflix accessibility, the fight could easily surpass traditional boxing viewership standards. Even if it falls short of the outlandish projections tied to Tyson versus Paul, drawing tens of millions of viewers globally would mark a monumental success. The simple fact that casual fans can stumble across the fight while scrolling Netflix could redefine how major boxing events are consumed in the future. The mom test theory, where non-sports fans casually bring up a fight, suggests there is some mainstream awareness. And while it may not reach Super Bowl-like proportions, the novelty of Alvarez and Crawford meeting, combined with the Netflix factor, ensures it will be one of the most-watched boxing matches of the modern era. Breaking down the fight: size, skill, and strategy. Inside the rings, the dynamics are both fascinating and perilous. Crawford is giving up significant size to Alvarez, who has fought comfortably at super middleweight and beyond. For Crawford to win, he will need to employ every ounce of his technical genius, relying on footwork, angles, and his uncanny ability to adjust mid-fight. Alvarez, by contrast, will look to impose his physicality, marching forward, cutting off the ring, and punishing Crawford's body. While Alvarez has slowed in recent years, his defensive acumen and power remain formidable. His patience, sometimes criticized as passivity, could become a weapon if Crawford struggles to find openings against the larger man. Judges' scorecards, as always in boxing, may loom large, with the ever-present specter of controversy shadowing the outcome. Some analysts see Crawford's craftiness carrying him to a close decision victory. Others believe the size disparity will prove too much, with Canelo eventually overwhelming his smaller foe. History suggests that when Canelo accepts a fight of this magnitude, it is because he has confidence of victory. Crawford, however, has built a career on defying expectations, and dismissing him outright would be a grave mistake. What this means for boxing's future. Regardless of the outcome, this fight carries seismic implications for boxing. A Crawford victory would cement his place among the all-time greats, elevating him into a pantheon that includes names like Sugar Ray Leonard and Mayweather. It would also spark questions about Canelo's future, whether he remains the sport's leading man, or if his time at the top is coming to a close. If Canelo wins, he retains his throne and further strengthens his legacy as boxing's premier star. He would silence doubters who question his willingness to face elite opponents and reaffirm his ability to compete at the highest level even in the later stages of his career. For fans, the allure lies not just in the result, but in the storylines it fuels. Is Crawford the master technician who can topple the bigger man? Is Canelo still the king of boxing, or will he hand the crown to a rival? And in the background, with Dana White and Netflix reshaping how fights are presented, could this event mark the beginning of a new era in how the sport is consumed? This fight is more than just two men in a ring. It is a collision of eras, of styles, of legacies. It is a battle for supremacy not only between two champions, but between two visions of what boxing represents today. Whether the night ends with Canelo's hand raised or Crawford's legend solidified, the world will witness history. Thanks for watching Fights, your ringside seat to every twist, every comeback, and every breaking moment in UFC. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss the next big fight story.